Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to throw out a compliment to my colleague from Ohio who just asked those questions. Those are very good questions, very insightful. Thank you for asking those questions. I want to continue on that line in terms of coordination and some local flexibility problems that I saw when I went to Puerto Rico myself. That was an unscripted visit. I went on my own accord and I visited a lot of locations impromptu so I can get the real story and not the script that folks would like to give you. And I had great assistance when I was on the ground as well. And by way of background, I'm an emergency medicine physician trained in public health and also trained in humanitarian disaster response from the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative and other locations. We talked about coordination. Let me just ask an open-ended question. Mr. Lopez, who's running the show down in Puerto Rico? Who's really in charge?
So understandably, we are under a command and control structure, as we mentioned. Again, FEMA makes the mission assignments. Okay. So mission assignments are handed out by FEMA.
So you would say FEMA's in charge?
Through our command and control structure. That's, again, as we interact, we take mission assignments from FEMA.
Okay.
And we work with our headquarters and our regional offices for support.
Okay, and how are you coordinated? Like, how does that information get down to the EPA folks that are in the field?
So we have a command and control structure, and in our region we have an incident coordinator.
Yes, and where is that incident coordinator located?
He's in Edison, New Jersey. But we also have staff.
New Jersey.
We also have staff, and this is critical for Puerto Rico. We also have staff embedded on the island. So
where exactly are they embedded?
Guaynaba.
Guaynaba. And where else are they embedded? In San Juan?
San Juan. So we have staff embedded there. We also have some staff.
So, you know, the point I'm making is that when I was there, the number one thing you need is clarity and leadership and roles and responsibilities and having to bring in all the local players, as Mr. Coleman was talking about, and everybody in a very flexible, rapid response group. And I didn't see that in Puerto Rico. We're using a spoke and hub model that's basically run out of San Juan, very top-down heavy, information's being sent out, all the different agencies are working in silos. They weren't even communicating with each other. So there's things like you mentioned, obstacles in being able to reach certain geographic locations. I worked with the 82nd Airborne closely in Port-au-Prince right after Haiti. Those men and women can move mountains to get supplies anywhere in the world. And I didn't see that kind of coordination on the ground to get those supplies, to get the people where they needed to go. So here's what I'm proposing, and I'm speaking to everybody else, is, you know, the challenges of Puerto Rico are very different than the challenges in Houston and Florida. You don't have a large concentration of population with an infrastructure that's intact, electricity and communication. You still have the majority of people without power. You still have the majority of people who have difficulty finding that clean water. And you say some of the water systems are operational. What does that mean, operational? Because I've been into some hospitals, they say are operational, but that's only one floor of the 5 floors of the hospital, but yet people want to tout them as operational. So what we need to talk about is capacity, and what is the capacity of the infrastructure to reach how many people? Oftentimes, gentlemen, we get the reports of how many people on the ground, how many water bottles, how many systems, but that is not the way that you manage or that you count accountability in a disaster response. We have to talk about capacity. So what is the capacity of the different agencies and the different infrastructure systems to provide the much needed services? And you're right, Mr. Lopez, agua es vida. Water is life. And so tell me, is there a water task force in Puerto Rico with different stakeholders? And where is that water task force? How is that water task force managed? And who are the stakeholders in that task force?
So it's a small group. So we have, again, FEMA with mission assignment, our offices. We work with the EQB, Environmental Quality, and with the state health, the territory health department. So those are the principal actors. Okay. And just, Congressman, if I may, we are on track on a regular basis. We do regular meetings with the island, conference calls and interdiction.
Great. My proposal is to have field command posts with all the different stakeholders to address local issues with local mayors and NGOs and the Puerto Rican government, the federal government, and other agencies working together. Pretty much what Mr. Coleman talked about that's occurring in other locations. but have that in Puerto Rico more in the field so that you can have better decision-making, coordination, and responding. Your role is to test and monitor and to track changes, but then that needs to get translated to actual implementation in a much more rapid way so that goods and repairs can be made in a transparent and a prioritized ways on the ground. And so that's, my time's up. So that's my recommendation, given my experience, and I think that we need to move forward in trying to implement some of those.
Thank you, Dr. Ruiz. I agree. We had a very similar hearing like this on the Energy Subcommittee, and the question I asked was who's in charge.
Yeah,
and I would have loved for...
And right now, we heard FEMA, but then when I was on the ground, FEMA said Puerto Rico, and then Puerto Rico says FEMA.
I don't disagree, and I wish that the administration would have just parachuted the 82nd there.
I would have loved to have seen that.
To some of the very small villages, and I think we all would have been best served. Then we could have worried about who's responsible later, but you need to get service there immediately.
So, Chairman, if I just briefly too, and not last but not least, there is a joint field operations center there, and we do have EPA incident commanders, and we have branch leaders in Puerto Rico. So there is an incident command center there. Those other agencies are embedded, but...
See, when you say that, though, Puerto Rico's big. And you leave us with the impression that it's somewhere, but where exactly? And are they in the different municipalities? And do we have the right people working in a group out in the field in those different municipalities? Because when I was there, they didn't exist. FEMA told me they didn't have field command posts. DMAT did not have field command posts. I spoke to different agencies that did not. They said that this would be a good idea and something that they would be very willing to work with. And I'm meeting with HHS later today to address this concept.